Hi everybody, it's me Tess with Tess Loves This Yarn, and today I'm going to be showing you how to keep your stitches nice and uniform, and that means the same size, because some of you guys are like, my stitches don't look very neat, like some are smaller, some are larger, and all that kind of thing. Well, that's a certain thing to mess up your gauge, okay? Y'all know what gauge is, right? It's like on a pattern where it says like 22 stitches by 18 stitches in a 4x4 square, okay? So you need to know your gauge, because if you're doing a wearable and you're following a pattern, if you don't match the gauge of the pattern, then your wearable item is either going to be bigger or smaller, depending on what your stitches look like. Okay? Now, I have to tell y'all, I was over at my Aunt Pat's. I love my Aunt Pat. She is like the best. I mean, the best auntie. And we were talking about crocheting, because my Aunt Pat crochets. She's been crocheting a long time, and she was saying how, boy, your stitches are so nice and even, and she says my stitches don't look like that. And so I thought, I wonder if she knows, the proper way to use the hook when you're creating something in crochet. And so I started explaining it to her, because it's really math if you think about it. Now, y'all know I'm a retired teacher, right? So it's, it's math. And I know a bunch of you out there going, math? Blah! Don't come at me with math. Well, it's not really hard at all. And the reason I say it's math is because mathematically it makes sense. Because when you're talking about making your stitches the same size, you're talking about circumference, okay? And that's just the measurement around an object. So let's look at one of my favorite hooks by My Darn Yarn on Etsy. Get that little plug in for Amanda, because she's awesome and she makes these beautiful hooks. But anyway, when you look at your hook, it's round. So the circumference of the hook is the size of the hook. Now this one happens to be a number 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter hook. So what that means is not the head is 4.5, it's the shaft of the hook that is 4.5, okay? Just like in any of the other ones. This is a J hook, okay? You can see how much bigger that shaft is. And y'all know, this is pretty easy, but y'all know as you go up on your yarn size, there's finger weight, there's DK, there's worsted weight, and there's chunky, right? So every one of those yarn weights, because the yarn is either thinner or thicker, right? It calls for a different size hook, right? So that's the easy peasy part. But now, the part that I think a lot of people don't understand is that when you're using your hook, the shaft is very important in the way you form your stitches, because the shaft is what gives you the uniform size of your stitch, okay? So I'm going to put the camera in the down position so I can show you what I mean, all right? But before I do that, I just have to tell y'all a little tiny story. You know me, gotta get the chit chat out of the way. But y'all, do you know who John Wick is? Those John Wick movies where he's like a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. He's like a bad guy that has a heart of gold and he's got scruples. Hard to understand it. He's not really a bad guy. Okay, there you go. We won't get all into that. But he's played by an actor named Keanu Reeves, okay? And it's this John Wick series. And in one of the movies, John Wick is defending himself against a bad guy. And the only thing he has is a pencil. And that pencil is like right there in his hand. And the bad guy comes at him. And he kills the bad guy with the pencil. Literally. Kills the dude with the pencil. All right? So I got to tell you, I had my own personal John Wick ninja moment just the other day. Okay? You know, last week we had much warmer weather in Missouri. And, of course, it brought the bugs out, right? So somehow, a couple days ago, big old horsefly got into my house. And you know, those suckers sting. They'll bite you and it hurts. Like, whew, like you wouldn't believe, right? So this big old horsefly came flying in through my back door because it was open just a little bit, all right? And I had been trying to get this horsefly and it just got away from me. And I was like, okay. And then it kind of disappeared. So it was hanging out somewhere else in my house. I don't know where. But I happened to be in the kitchen and I was cleaning off the kitchen table like 2 more. And I'll tell you what happened. I had just picked up the box of Frosted Flakes. And all of a sudden, I see in the corner of my eye the big, huge horsefly coming straight at me. And I knew he was going to try to get me. And I had that box of Frosted Flakes in my hand. And I went, boom, with the Frosted Flakes. And I killed that big old horsefly in midair. I kid you not. I had a John Wick ninja moment all of my own. And I'm so proud of myself. I texted my son down at the college he goes to. I sent him a text. I said, son, I had a John Wick ninja moment. And he sent me a text back and he said, awesome, Mom. He didn't even know what I was talking about, I guess. But anyway, it was good. And I'm proud of myself for having that John Wick ninja moment with a box of Frosted Flakes. That's right, Tony the Tiger. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, y'all, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about when I'm telling you how to keep your stitches straight, all right? So hang on, let me turn the camera over and down. Yeah, okay, just a sec. Okay, everybody, I'm back, and what I want to show you, now here's some dishcloths I made. And I don't know if you can tell, but you can see my stitches here. And they're all really very, very uniform. All the same size, you know. And that's what we're talking about right here, is how to keep your stitches in a uniform size, okay? So I've got, these are just dishcloths I'm making for my sister. I think I told y'all about that. But what I'm going to use to demonstrate this is some Craft Smart yarn that I got at Michael's. And this is the rose color. Yes. Well, it's called pink/rose. So I want to show you a typical mistake that I think crocheters make when they are crocheting. They're either making it because they're not aware that this is how you're supposed to do it, or they are just not paying attention, okay? So I'm going to use my big old J hook right here just so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to get my Ross crochet hook case out of the way. I call this my Ross crochet hook case because it reminds me of Ross. It smells like yarn because Sweet Ross, he loves flamingos. So if you're watching, Ross, hi honey, I sure do love your hat pattern, dear. All right, so let's get back to, oh, by the way, Ross does not crochet, he knits. And y'all know I'm a knitter too, from way back. And that's how I first found Ross years ago. All right, so what you see here is I have yarn on my hook, right? I've made a slip knot, and I hope you can see that, made a slip knot there. And can you see where the yarn is on the shaft of this hook? It is close to the hook. Now you don't want it real tight, but you want it close to the hook. Okay, you want it to be able to slide nicely, but you want it close to the hook. And I'm just going to chain, and see how I slide the yarn back down the shaft when I'm making my foundation chain? I slide it back down, I come up, I yarn over, pull it down. I always move the yarn back down the shaft. See that? And the reason why we want to do that is because we want every loop, we want the circumference of every loop here to be the same. This loop on this shaft, which is a J hook, these are all going to be the same size if you put your yarn right around the shaft, not so tight that you can't get your stitches in, but you know, tight enough that the yarn is not distorted. And what I mean by that is that it's not pulled out like this. You want your yarn to be that circle that's around your shaft. Now you can't do it up here because you can see up here around the head of your hook, there is this indentation. And all hooks have that indentation. That's so you can slide the yarn off of the shaft and get your hook into it, okay? So if you put your, look at this, my yarn's up here. Look how the loop changes. Can you see that? There's a lot of extra space there now. You don't want to put make the mistake of putting your yarn up here sometimes and down here other times, or pulling it away like this and making that loop bigger. The reason you have different size crochet hooks is to make the circumference of your loop different sizes. So if you do it like this, your loop is always going to be the same size, okay? So I've got a few stitches on here, and I want you to look at that. These are all the same size. And I bet you anything, if you took these apart and individually measured them, they would be so close to the same size that you wouldn't really, there wouldn't be much of a difference, okay? Now, obviously, nothing handmade is going to be 100% perfect, but these are going to be extremely close. And now let's just say we're going to go in and make a double crochet. Same thing, all three of these loops need to be close. The yarn needs to be close to the shaft, okay? And then we're gonna yarn over. We're gonna pull through two of those loops. Now look at the position of these loops. They're still in the correct position, okay? Because they're on the shaft. Now we're gonna yarn over again and pull through again. And we are starting to make a chain of double crochets. See? And all of these stitches will wind up being the exact same size, almost the exact same size, I should say, because we are carrying the yarn down around the shaft where we're getting the correct size from the hook we're using, and then we're keeping it, we're going to keep it there as we make our stitches. See? And our stitches are all going to turn out to be very, very close in diameter, the same diameter, okay? And now I get going sometimes pretty quick, but yet my stitches will still remain around this shaft because when I learned how to crochet, I already had the knowledge of mathematics in my head from being a teacher. And I knew that these loops, in order to be the same size, needed to be around this shaft where the diameter or circumference rather of this circle, which is the shaft, is the uniform size, the same size up and down this shaft. Okay? So remember, do not put your loops on way up here close to the head because that is not going to give you a uniform size. It needs to go below the indent, which is usually in this area right here. Okay? Which is a big area for this. So no worries. Okay? You guys are going to be able to do this. It's very, very easy. And then you are going to have beautiful, beautiful stitches. Just like I have. I'm not tooting my own horn, y'all. I'm just trying to teach you a little something. So there you have it. Okay? And that's your stitches. So I hope this helps you guys. I know that math is a scary thing, but you don't have to do any math to be able to get uniform stitches. Nice, neat, even stitches. You don't need to do the math. Just know that because of the math, this makes sense on how to put your yarn around the shaft and how to slide it down and keep it around the shaft area when you're making your stitches. Just like I showed you. Okay? Now, if you're having like a brain fog on that, just rewind me and go back just a little bit to when I was doing it, okay? And you will see what I'm talking about. So make sure when you're using your hooks that you're using your hooks correctly to get those nice even stitches that everybody can have, I promise, okay? So, you guys, I don't know if I can tilt this around without dropping the camera. Oh, here I am. Hi. You guys, I'm going to have to go. But as always, if I can duck down here, as always, be kind and be safe out there in the world, no matter where you are. And I'll talk to you all soon. Love y'all so much. Bye now. Go make some good stitches. Bye.